Okay, in this video, we are going to do an install of a Potty Sniffer air intake shroud, and we're going to show you how to install and adjust it. So for our example toilet, we've got a toilet tank from Toto, and it's got a standard overflow pipe. So that's the first step with any install. Before you even purchase the system, you want to make sure that what type of overflow system is built into your existing toilet. Now, and you also want to make sure that there's enough room to fit an air intake shroud. This one looks like it's fairly open. It's not anywhere near the flusher or anywhere near the fill valve, so this one shouldn't be any trouble. If you've got a system that looks like it's tighter fit, you can grab one of these from our website. There's a template that you can cut out and just check to make sure that it'll fit. So the goal is to put this overflow pipe in this dark circle. If you can actually fit it in this dotted circle, that'll work with the centering ring that comes standard with the air intake shroud. So again, you can go to our website and grab one of these. In this case, we're not going to have any problems, it looks like. So the first step before you do anything is to make sure that your toilet is flushing properly and that the water level is adjusted to the factory spec. Generally, this will be a 1/2 inch to 1.5 inches below the top of the overflow pipe. And just make sure everything's running fine. Turn off your water and then we can begin. Totos come pretty standard with this 90-degree refill valve, refill tube clip. Unfortunately, this won't work with our system because the 90 degrees will crash into the side of the intake shroud. So we're going to replace this with the clip that comes standard with our kit. So we're going to take that off the overflow pipe, and if you give it a tug, sometimes it's a little bit hard, but it'll come out. We can remove this and just set that aside. We are going to reuse this tube, so we can leave that alone. Okay, at this point, we can bring our air intake shroud into the picture. This is the standard air intake shroud for the standard overflow pipe. That's the centering ring we talked about. Now, we have different types of air intake shrouds. There's a one for a Kohler. There's some custom ones, but generally they are going to be operating with the same principle. There are two adjustments that need to be made when you fit one of these on. The air vacuum relief tube, this tube right here that runs along the side, needs to be adjusted so that the end of that tube right there is 1/8 of an inch or just slightly below the water line of the tank when it's in the filled state. The second adjustment we'll need to make is the vacuum relief float. We want to adjust this valve to be just barely closed, so just right around there, at the filled tank position. So to begin, this is the first step you should actually do with any install. You want to make sure that your air intake shroud fits into your tank. Once you're ready to install, you want to do this before you go ahead and install the pump, install the air line, the air exhaust connection. You don't want to come here and find out that you're going to have a problem with this fitment here. First thing you want to do is take this shroud and mount it onto your overflow pipe. In this case here, the standard Toto overflow pipe that came with this tank fits our centering ring perfectly. So it's a really solid fit. So that works good. To set this air relief tube, you want to take a ruler or some kind of a pencil even, so you have a point of reference. You want to measure down, touch the top of that water. And in this case, it's about 2 3/4 down from the top of the shroud. And you can also use a pencil, just take a measurement and mark it. So we're going to take the intake shroud back off. Okay. It's kind of tight because that centering ring fits perfectly in this case. Then take our ruler, mark off 2 3/4 inches. You see we're going to have to pull it in a little bit. So come in here, adjust that up to just below that point. Once we put it back in, we're going to double check visually to make sure that looks like it's underwater. Okay, at this point, we still need to adjust this float, but we can do that with it installed. We're going to take our refill tube that comes with the shroud, and there's that clip that I mentioned for the refill tube. We're going to orient this so that in the install position, it'll slip in that position right there into that gap, since we are using this ring. That's about the 9 o'clock position. You want it like that. So we're going to take this and push it onto our overflow pipe. So just like that, hopefully you can see that. And it's in the 9 o'clock position. Okay, we're ready to get this shroud back on. Hold on to the refill tube as you slide it down. Find that position with that centering ring. And there it goes. It should push in right there. There we go. And we're back in. Okay, next thing is we got to adjust this float. You can see it's popped up quite a bit here. We want to grab that valve, and you can spin the thumb screw and set it so that it is barely closed. There we go. A little bit more. Okay, that looks pretty good. After we get it all set up, we're going to check it one more time. We're going to do a couple of test cycles and make sure it's still closed. Okay, next step. We want to go into our hardware kit that comes with the system, and we're going to look for this straight barb connector. And we're going to install that into the original refill tube and then tie it to the new refill tube that comes with the shroud. Then once that's done, we're just going to tuck that between the wall and the intake shroud and make sure it doesn't crash into the flapper or anything like that. Looks like that's a good position. And actually, that's pretty much it. If you didn't need to use that centering ring, you could just pull it right off. Again, this can be off-center, this can be rotated. As long as you can get this shroud onto that overflow pipe without interfering with anything else, the system will work. If this shroud is a little bit loose, don't worry about it. Once you get everything installed, generally it'll lock itself in place and it'll be okay. Let's go ahead and connect the air exhaust lines and the button switch. So here's our air exhaust from the air pump. This plugs right into that outlet there. If it's a little loose, you can do a wrap of tape around this. You can buy this tube at a Home Depot or any home improvement store if you need it. It's a standard size, but sometimes they're a little bit undersized, so we might need to build that up. But just plug it in there. You can even use a drop of super glue to just single drop just to lock it in place. Let's get our button switch on. So here's our standard button switch. It has a hanger and it's meant to hang onto the side of the tank like that. If for some reason your tank doesn't accept this hanger, it's either too really thick or you want to make it look cleaner without the hanger, you can actually trim that tab off with a set of wire cutters or a knife, file it down so it's smooth, and the button comes with an adhesive disc you can apply to the back, and then you can just stick that anywhere that you want onto the tank. You can even put it on the wall, vanity next to the tank, just wherever you want it. You can use the adhesive disc to get that in there. In this case, we're just going to leave this hanging. Now, most tanks have some kind of vent feature, like a cutout to allow air in when the system flushes. In this case here, we don't see one. You can cut one in if needed. And there's another video that we're going to put up to show you how to do that with a Dremel tool and a diamond cutting disc. You can also do that if you want the tank lid to sit flat perfectly. The other thing that we include with the hardware kit is we have these little spacers that would clip on to the back of the tank. So that would go there. Put a second spacer in there, and that will give us a gap that the tube and the line will be able to pass through. Oh, let's finish connecting the button switch. We have the button switch extension cable. The button switch we plug right in there. Whoops, wrong way. And then this can actually slip behind the tank. Okay, so we've got the spacers there. We could put the lid on here. There is one thing you need to look for. That in a lot of cases, the vent cutout is actually in the lids, which is what we have here. So as long as we're out the middle, we don't need the spacers. We can drop this right on top. Make sure it's taking advantage of that cutout. Yep. And that's it. We are done. So thanks. We have a bunch of other how-to videos. Please check those out. In one of them, we're going to talk about how we can modify this button for a better fit as well. But otherwise, we are all set. You can hit the button, use the pump. We're good to go.